Oh, yeah. And another thing. Ladies and gentlemen, just in, the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, Frank Vogel, is on borrowed time. Look, I know VIP, that is not breaking news. We knew he was on borrowed time as soon as he signed his name on the dotted line to become the Lakers head coach. When he wasn't the first, he wasn't the second, he wasn't even the third choice to fill the slot that was vacated by Bill Walton's son, Luke. But they found their man the very first year he filled the slot, brings the Lakers their 17th NBA championship. But he was really not the guy they wanted. In fact, the guy they really wanted to have, at least right now, is now coaching the Mavericks. Yeah, the Lakers wanted to have Jason Kidd be the guy, but the reason why they couldn't put him at head coach at the time was because, how can I say this in the PC of ways? Uh, Mr. Kidd had a lot of dirt on him. I mean, not the salacious type. I mean, he had his stand, of course, coaching the Bucks, but the scuttlebutt around the NBA was that I'm not quite sure that he was the guy because he's the type to do things such as pick up a drink and run into a player to create a full timeout. He would do things like that. So the NBA circles were like, we can't really put all of our trust in Mr. Kidd because he acts a little immature on the bench. So they figured that this stint that he was going to be as assistant head coach to Vogel was going to be the leeway for him to be head coach of the Lakers. Why? Because, well, there's a name that I won't mention, but only on Wednesdays on the Daily. Check it out, YouTube channel. Oh, Sports on the Daily. He wanted to have Mr. Kidd as head coach. Well, Kidd saw the hand running on the wall and he was like, okay, I'm going to go elsewhere. And so go elsewhere he did, which left the Lakers in a little bit of a lurch. So in the offseason, they decided to stock up veteran wise. So they got Carmelo Anthony and they got Russell Westbrook and they got Rajon Rondo and they got Dwight Howard. All of these veterans, but you're basically swimming, treading water. And now the Lakers are looking for scapegoats. And I can tell you this is how they operate and run. Just go all the way back to when Magic was with the Lakers, 1981. This was the year that the year after Magic won his first NBA championship. Paul Westhead was not really getting the ear of everybody, and Magic wanted him out. And having the ear of Dr. Jerry Buss, Westfall was ushered out. And the team really wasn't going the way they wanted to go. And believe me, how the Lakers operate, if things don't operate the way they want to, and the way they want things operated would be they win a championship or nothing else matters. Since they didn't have that, he had to go, and a scapegoat had to be found. That was the case with him. That was somewhat the case with Pat Riley, but not so much. That definitely was the case with Magic in 1984 when he was the head coach of the team. That was definitely the case with Dale Harris, late 90s. And unfortunately, that was the case with Rudy Tomjanovich before Phil Jackson got on board and won chips as he did. So here we are now, 2022. Vogel is he's now in flux. He's now in limbo because he all right, let me lay it out for you. Vogel is a defensive-minded head coach. That's how he got his. That's how he got his trade. That's how he got his marks. That's how he got his stripes, as they would say in the military. He was a defensive-minded head coach, and with the Pacers, that is what he stressed. He pushed. He championed. He wanted defense. Defense first. Everything else came after. That was his trademark. So, considering that, the Lakers probably wanted to have that type of figure on their bench because the offense was taken care of. it's hard to now justify him being that when he now is the head coach of a team that is 24th in defense. So you start to see the wheels being greased. You starting to see the pathway being laid. The question is, which road do they want to take? Because you have him, you have Anthony Davis, who's a Mr. Glass type, and you have Russell Westbrook, who came over to be the missing piece to what last year they missed. And now here we are this year, and that isn't the piece. He just doesn't fit. There isn't anything wrong with him. It just doesn't work because the Lakers need shooting and they need talent, overall talent that is much younger than even Westbrook's age, which is 33. So right now, it's like they have narrowed it down to two names that they are going to call scapegoats with this 500 season that the Lakers now have because they thought this was going to be a 70-12 regular season and a 2022 World Championship year. So you have these two names, but it looks as though it's tilting, it's tilting and tilting ever so slightly toward Vogel being the hit guy and the fall guy. That it's all his fault, that it is all his fault because he doesn't know how to manage the talent that he has. It's his fault because he does not know how to get to team to play defense. But I'll tell you this in all honesty, you get a team that is the age that they are now, and their aggregate age is around 33 years of age, like Westbrook's age. And they have the ability to say, defense is optional. And that's just how they think. That's how they think. That's how they roam. That's how they move. That is how they are, and that's what they are. So Vogel was going to have a uphill battle just to get the Lakers to even think about playing defense. That's just not who they are. None of them. Maybe for the exception of, I don't know, DeAndre Jordan, but and maybe Dwight Howard. But Dwight Howard in the latter part of his years, he's not like he was when he was winning defensive player of the year awards in with the Magic. He's not that type of player anymore. The Lakers are looking for a scapegoat and they're looking to have some sort of motivation to propel them to a better second half of the season. The way the team is constructed, it's not going to happen. And even if they were to fire Frank Vogel, it just will not happen. It just will not wash. It just will not be anything. They will go the same route in the second half as they will with in the first. And they will go the same route without him as they have with them. And that's not a slight against the Lakers. That's not even a slight against the organization. That's just fact. You got too many players who are too old to think otherwise. You're not going to tell them much of anything that they're going to say, well, heck, I've already done this. And when you have that, I don't care if you're Frank Vogel or Jason Kidd or any other coach, whatever coach sits or stands on the Los Angeles Lakers sideline, you are living on borrowed time. You have to understand that. You have to be at home with that. And unfortunately, with Frank Vogel, his time is coming and he will be considered the scapegoat of why the Lakers are not doing what they're supposed to do. It's not his fault. That's just the way of the Lakers world. Get at me if you think differently. I want to hear what you have to say. See you next time.